Hi, Dr. Hinchy here. I want to talk to you guys about my favorite herbal interventions for healing Lyme disease. So, first, I want to talk to you a little bit about the goals of healing Lyme disease so that you understand why to use the herbs I'm going to recommend. So, there's three main things that happen that help Lyme to live in the body. So, number one, it activates these enzymes that break down collagen and the extracellular matrix, and this allows it to move throughout the body and also break down your connective tissue and your collagen and feed itself. And so this is going to lead to a lot of weakness and instability and pain and inflammation and whatnot. And if we can inhibit these enzymes, we can actually slow down the ability of this organism to move throughout the body and to break down our collagen and feed itself. So there's three enzymes to keep in mind: aggrecanase, hyaluronidase, and the collagenases. And so we can inhibit aggrecan using Japanese knotweed. We can inhibit hyaluronidase using echinacea and ashwagandha. And we can inhibit the collagenases using Japanese knotweed and Chinese skullcap. So you'll see here a combination of Japanese knotweed, ashwagandha, and Chinese skullcap are actually going to inhibit all three of these enzymes that break down our collagen and extracellular matrix, feed the infection, and help it to move. Okay. The second thing is that we have these organisms, and specifically, it's like the flagella on the spirochete, which is the bacteria that causes Lyme disease, also known as Borrelia. And it ignites nuclear factor kappa beta, this first inflammatory cytokine listed here, and kicks off this whole cascade of all of these other inflammatory enzymes that you see. And these inflammatory enzymes not only cause the inflammation that cause cell damage and cause your symptoms, but also it leads to the immune dysregulation and sometimes autoimmune like response that we see in the body. And so we can actually inhibit these cytokines using a combination of Japanese knotweed and Chinese skullcap, as well as cordyceps. So, this ongoing inflammatory cytokine cascade is really what leads to an imbalance in the immune system. So, I want to reiterate the importance of these three herbs: Japanese knotweed, Chinese skullcap, and ashwagandha. Together, these three herbs used simultaneously will inhibit the enzymes that degrade collagen and the extracellular matrix, and also protect the endothelial cells, which are the cells that Lyme initially invades. A combination of these three herbs also will inhibit the inflammatory cytokine cascade and balance the immune system. Okay, so galactin 3 is an upstream driver of inflammation, and galactin 3 does a whole bunch of things. It forms the backbone or the scaffolding for the biofilms or the forts that these bacteria build to evade the immune system. It promotes adhesion of pathogenic microbes to various cells and epithelial tissue in the gut in our body. It shields these pathogens from immune surveillance and drug therapies or antibiotics. It drives the cycle of dysbiosis to systemic inflammation. So, again, igniting nuclear factor kappa beta and all of those other resulting inflammatory cytokines. It ultimately causes immune suppression and dysregulation, and it also promotes the development of mast cell activation syndrome and drives the instability in the mast cell. So, galactin 3 can be blocked or inhibited using galactin 3 modulator, also known as G3M pectosol. So, this G3M pectosol is a polysaccharide soluble fiber that's derived from the pith of citrus peels, so from fruit. And it goes through this process where it's modified to a lower molecular weight and esterified to enhance the GI absorption of it. So regular citrus pectin, you're just going to keep in your digestive tract and you're going to poop it out. It's a fiber that you are not able to absorb. What's different about this is that it goes through this esterification and modification to lower its molecular weight. So it's actually able to be absorbed into the body and work systemically. And so this G3M pectisol actually has a stronger affinity for the binding site on the carbohydrate recognition domain of galactin 3, and it actually kicks the LPS and it busts up these pentamers, which are the scaffolding for the biofilm. So this is very, very strongly able to break down biofilms in the body. G3M pectisol also binds heavy metals, binds the LPS, which is the breakdown of the outer cell membrane of the dying bacteria. It increases interleukin 1 beta. Sorry, let me say that again. Decreases interleukin 1 beta and interleukin 6, two of the predominant inflammatory cytokines. Decreases nuclear factor kappa beta. It helps to increase natural killer cells, and it promotes healthy collagen production, which is so important when we are fighting an infection that breaks down our collagen and lives off of the nutrients contained in it. So there are multiple studies here that talk about the effectiveness of various botanical medicines in treating Lyme as well as other vector-borne diseases. There are also multiple books written by the late Stephen Harold Buhner, a master herbalist who basically dedicated his life to studying herbal medicine and their ability to heal Lyme and other tick-borne diseases. And then there was a study done more recently in February of 2020, and it evaluated the natural and botanical medicines for activity against growing and non-growing forms of Borrelia burgdorferi. And some of the herbs studied here were cryptolepis, black walnut, sweet wormwood, which is sweet Annie, cat's claw, and Japanese knotweed. And they were shown to have potent activity against the Lyme disease bacteria, especially the dormant persister forms, which were not killed by the current Lyme antibiotics. So that's a great study to look up. Now, my 7 most used antimicrobials for treating Borrelia are Japanese knotweed, cat's claw, Chinese skullcap, sweet Annie, cryptolepis, petunia, and black walnut. And what I want to show you guys is that not only are these herbs antimicrobial, but they have a lot of other side benefits that feed into our underlying goals of healing from Lyme, which include balancing the immune system, decreasing those enzymes that break down the extracellular matrix and collagen, and inhibit that nasty inflammatory cytokine cascade that makes us hospitable to these infections, but also causes most of the symptoms. So we'll start with Japanese knotweed. So in addition to being antimicrobial, it's anti-inflammatory. So I already showed you it inhibits those collagenases, inhibits the MMPs, decreases C-reactive protein, and it also inhibits a lot of the other inflammatory cytokines. And it has various constituents in it. This isn't just resveratrol. So I know that a lot of people talk about the importance of using resveratrol in treating Lyme, but if you're just using resveratrol and you're only using a resveratrol extract, you're really missing the boat because there are other constituents in Japanese knotweed that are going to work synergistically with the resveratrol and is going to give you the full array of the effects of Japanese knotweed, not just resveratrol. So that's a very, very important thing to note. Japanese knotweed is also immunomodulant and immunostimulant. It also is neuroprotective, and it protects against beta amyloid induced neurotoxicity and ischemic injury. And this is by Amodin. So, again, like you're not going to get the same effect if you're just using that resveratrol extract. You can look at the various contraindications and side effects here. Biggest thing to note is that you cannot use Japanese knotweed if you are on a blood thinner. Okay, my second favorite herb is cat's claw. So, cat's claw is anti inflammatory. It inhibits nuclear factor kappa beta, which is up at the top of that inflammatory cytokine cascade. It's also an antioxidant. And so, remember that LPS there, that breakdown component of the outer membrane of the dying bacteria, increases oxidative stress and inflammation. And so this is one of the things that this does is it inhibits this polysaccharide induced nitric oxide synthase, which is a driver of oxidation and cell death in the body. It's also anti-spirochetal, so it's effective against all morphological forms of Borrelia burgdorferi, which is super important. So this includes round bodies, biofilm-like colonies, etc., in addition to the growing forms. Okay. Cat's claw is also cardioprotective and it's an immunostimulant. And so for certain people, it's important to have this immunostimulant property. So it helps to increase natural killer cells, which is one of the subsets of lymphocytes that when you have chronic Lyme disease actually gets shut down. Um I don't believe in using TOA free cat's claw. I believe in using the whole herb. As a naturopathic doctor, I am trained classically in botanical medicine. And again, I believe in the power of the whole herb and the synergism of all of the constituents in the herb. When we start trying to extract certain things out, that's where we run into trouble and we can have side effects instead of side benefits. The biggest drug herb interaction with cat's claw would be if someone is on a blood thinner, again, just like Japanese knotweed. Okay, Chinese skullcap, one of my favorites. It's antibacterial, it's anti-spirochetal, it is anti-inflammatory, and it's also neuroprotective. Chinese skullcap also contains high levels of melatonin, so it is very helpful in patients who aren't sleeping. So I know a lot of you out there with Lyme have insomnia, sleep disruption. So skullcap is a wonderful way of actually giving the body some melatonin, which is also immune boosting. And it also helps to shut down an enzyme called IDO. And IDO actually breaks down tryptophan into something called quinolic acid. And quinolic acid is extremely neuroinflammatory and causes insomnia and can even cause seizures. So skullcap can inhibit that chemical and help us to convert our tryptophan into serotonin and melatonin. So it's just a wonderful nerve tonic on top of being anti-inflammatory, antibacterial, and anti-spirochetal. All right, Artemisia annua or sweet Annie is antibabesial, antiplasmodial. It's also antibacterial and anti-spirochetal, and it is anti-inflammatory and it's an antioxidant. So this herb has one of the most far-reaching effects as far as its side benefits. And if you are on an azole antifungal as part of your treatment or a calcium channel blocker, you just want to be careful. And it can also, those things can block the effects of your body's ability to absorb the sweet Annie or the artemisinin, which is one of the desired constituents in sweet Annie. Okay, cryptolepis. So cryptolepis is antibacterial, antispirochetal, it's antimalarial, it's antibabesial, and it's anti-inflammatory. So it has a lot of really good effects that are synergistic. Cryptolepis has been said to actually be effective against the persister cells of Lyme, which most antibiotics are not. Petunia is antibacterial, it's anti-inflammatory, and it's also antioxidant. And black walnut is antibacterial, antispirachetal, and also has an ability to inhibit most of the pro-inflammatory cytokines. Okay, so a sample Lyme disease protocol for me, and this is a sample, okay? This is meant to be done with all of the lifestyle medicine and the functional medicine and the naturopathic medicine, that you've heard throughout this summit. I would use a teaspoon 3 times a day of the G3M Pectosol. And again, this is to break down biofilms, encourage healthy collagen production, increase natural killer cells, decrease interleukin 6 and interleukin 1 beta, bind any heavy metals that are being released, from those biofilms or from the cells, and to help to heal up the tight junctions. So it does a lot of amazing things. Secondly, ashwagandha, half a teaspoon 3 times a day. This is to balance the immune system. And also, it inhibits some of those enzymes that break down the extracellular matrix and collagen. Japanese knotweed, a fourth of a teaspoon 3 times a day. Japanese knotweed is going to help to inhibit some of those inflammatory cytokines. It protects endothelial cells. And as you just saw, it has direct antimicrobial, antibacterial effects. Cat's claw, immunostimulant, anti-spirochetal. It is going to increase natural killer cells. The dose is a fourth of a teaspoon 3 times a day. Cryptolepis, now you can go from a fourth to a half of a teaspoon, depending, but you want to get up to 3 times a day. And that's because Cryptolepis is anti-parasitic, anti-plasmodial, antibacterial, anti-spirochetal, as well as having some anti-inflammatory benefits. And Chinese skullcap, a fourth to a half of a teaspoon 3 times a day. Chinese skullcap for its neuroprotective effects, also for inhibiting the inflammatory cytokine cascade and inhibiting some of those other enzymes that ashwagandha and Japanese knotweed do not inhibit, that break down the extracellular matrix. And then we have Artemisia annua, or sweet Annie. And again, that is because of its anti-parasitic and antibacterial activities, as well as its protective properties and anti-inflammatory properties. And then, if necessary, you can throw in black walnut, a fourth of a teaspoon 3 times a day, for its antimicrobial activities. And then obviously we could consider others depending on the individual symptoms. And again, this is something that I am recommending you do in conjunction to a good lifestyle functional medicine protocol. Doing herbs all by themselves, if you're not supporting the routes of detoxification in the body, and you're not on the basic nutrients and things that you need, you're not going to get as good of a result as you would if you are looking at the whole patient as a whole and addressing all of the systems in the body and the imbalances in the body. Check out my 10B protocol. There is a little mini talk that I did on that goes more into like the whole well-rounded holistic lifestyle approach. So thank you so much for listening, and I hope that you found this helpful, and I hope that it helps you on your path to healing Lyme. Take care. I'll see you next time.